Chapter 1: The Fall. There was a time he believed in everything. In people, in dreams, in himself. He had light in his eyes, fire in his chest, and a vision so clear it felt destined. But life has a way of testing those who burn the brightest. One betrayal, one failure, one heartbreak too many, and the world started to change its tone. The encouragement turned into judgment. The support faded into mockery. The people who once clapped for him were now watching to see him fail. He tried to explain, tried to hold on, tried to be everything they needed him to be. But every attempt, every word, only made him feel smaller, until one day he stopped speaking. He looked around and realized no one was truly listening. They were waiting for him to fall so they could feel taller. So he fell, quietly, on purpose. He let go of the need to be understood, of the weight of their opinions, of the fake smiles and hollow praise. He didn't collapse. He surrendered to the silence. And that was the moment everything began to change. Chapter 2: The Silence. The world went on without him. No one asked where he went. No one wondered why he stopped calling, stopped posting, stopped showing up. And that was the first lesson silence taught him. Most people only notice you when they need you. Very few care when you're gone. Even fewer ask why. At first, the quiet was unbearable. He was used to the noise, the constant buzz of opinions, the empty validation, the fear of being forgotten. But slowly, he began to listen to something he hadn't heard in years. His own voice, without the distractions, without the masks, without the weight of other people's expectations. He could finally hear what he truly wanted. Not fame, not approval, not revenge, peace. He didn't want to be loud. He didn't want to be seen. He wanted to become whole. And to do that, he had to embrace the silence, live inside it, let it break him, so he could find what was real. The nights were long, the doubts were loud, but he stayed, in the dark, alone, choosing discomfort over distraction, choosing depth over attention, choosing truth over applause, because he knew, if I want to become someone I've never been, I have to do what I've never done. And that begins here, in the quiet. Chapter 3: The Grind. Soft piano fades, replaced by the faint sound of breath, heartbeat, and rain hitting pavement. Then footsteps, heavy, steady. While the world slept, he woke up. At 4 a.m. there were no spectators. No one watching, no one clapping, just him, and the cold, and the mirror, and the voice in his head that whispered, "Keep going." He began rebuilding the ruins of his mind. One routine at a time: cold showers, push-ups in the dark, books instead of scrolling, writing down thoughts no one would read. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. There was no camera, no audience, no praise, only the grind, day after day, without recognition, without reward, without anyone even knowing. His hands blistered, his legs ached, his eyes burned from lack of sleep. But the pain became a companion, a quiet friend that said, "This is the price of becoming more." And he paid it. Willingly, because he wasn't just changing habits. He was changing his identity. The lazy man was dying. The broken man was fading. And something stronger, colder, sharper, was rising from the wreckage. He trained not to show off, but to survive. He studied not to look smart, but to think clearly. He isolated himself, not out of fear, but to protect the process. Because he knew true transformation requires total privacy. No one would see the work, but they would feel the result. Chapter 4: The Rebirth. Change doesn't happen overnight. It's not loud, it's not sudden. It creeps in like the morning fog, slow, quiet, certain. Weeks passed, then months. He didn't look the same, didn't think the same, didn't react the same. He was no longer driven by validation. He didn't crave noise. He didn't chase approval. The world that once excited him now looked hollow. The people who once impressed him now looked lost, and the man he used to be. He didn't recognize him anymore, because something inside had shifted. He didn't just rebuild his body, he rebuilt his mind. He no longer asked, "What do they think of me?" Now he asked, "Is this aligned with who I want to become?" He no longer chased motivation. Now he relied on discipline. He no longer feared being alone. Now he preferred it. In silence, he found clarity. In pain, he found purpose. And in solitude, he found himself. "You are born twice," he whispered to the mirror. "Once when the world sees you, and once when you see yourself." This was his second birth, and this time, he wasn't asking for permission. Music builds softly, cinematic strings rise slowly. He realized he didn't need to be louder. He needed to be deeper, more intentional, more solid. He stopped reacting, started observing, stopped explaining, started acting, stopped hoping someone would save him, and became his own savior. The world thought he disappeared, but no, he went inward, where the real work begins. And in the silence of that sacred war, a warrior was born. Chapter 5, The Return, Start. The return was never meant to be loud. He wasn't planning a comeback. He wasn't trying to shock anyone. He simply showed up. One day he walked back into rooms that once made him feel small, and felt nothing. The same faces, the same places. But he was completely different. He didn't brag, didn't announce his transformation, didn't post about it, didn't need to. Because when the energy shifts, the room feels it before words are spoken. People stared, some whispered, some didn't recognize him. And that was the point. He didn't return to prove anyone wrong. He returned because he had become someone undeniable. He was no longer looking to fit in. He was built to stand alone. They laughed when he disappeared. Now they fall silent when he enters. Chapter 5, The Return, continued. People began to notice, not because he spoke louder, but because his silence had weight now, presence, gravity. He didn't need to explain where he'd been. His eyes told the story. They'd once seen doubt, pain, hesitation. Now they saw stillness, fire, focus. Old friends reached out, some out of curiosity, some out of guilt, some just to see if the rumors were true. But he didn't carry bitterness. He didn't return with revenge in his heart. He had outgrown them, outgrown the pain, outgrown the need to be seen. Because when you build in silence, you rise beyond noise. And when you rebuild with purpose, you don't just come back stronger. You come back untouchable. See, he walked into his old life, and it no longer fit, not because the world changed, but because he did. He wasn't looking for validation. He was validation. His results spoke what words never could. They once said, he disappeared. Now they say, he became something else. And in truth, he did. He became a man who answers to no one but his purpose. A man who no longer fears silence because silence built him. A man forged in isolation, refined by pain and led by vision. He became the man they never saw coming, because they were too busy watching who he used to be. Now it's your turn. Maybe you're disappearing. Maybe you're in the dark. Maybe no one understands what you're doing right now. That's okay. You don't owe them an explanation. You owe yourself a reinvention. Disappear. Be misunderstood. Be doubted. Let them laugh. And then build. In silence, with discipline, with brutal honesty. Cut out the noise. Delete the excuses. Bury the old version of you. And dig until you find the man who's been waiting beneath the surface. Because he's there. Under the fear, under the pain, under the need to please. He's waiting for you to choose the path of one. The path of discomfort, solitude, and fire. And when you return, if you return, you will not come back the same. You will come back unrecognizable, untouchable, unshakable. Not because you said something, but because you became someone. See, closing quote on screen, the man who disappears to rebuild himself in silence returns with a presence that no one can deny.